man named Elias who spent his days alone in a little cottage on a hill. Elias was known for his beautiful garden, full of vibrant flowers and abundant fruit trees. The townspeople often wondered about his solitude, thinking it must be lonely to live such a quiet life. One day, a young girl named Clara, curious about Elias, decided to visit him. When she arrived at his cottage, she found him tending to his garden. Clara hesitated before asking,
"Mr. Elias, don't you feel lonely being here all by yourself?"
Elias looked up with a gentle smile.
Lonely? No, Clara. I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. There's a big difference between the two.
Clara frowned, confused.
"But how can you not be lonely if you're always alone?"
Elias invited Clara to sit with him on a bench in the garden. He gestured to the flowers around them and said,
These flowers are my companions. I've spent years learning how to care for them, listening to what they need. In return, they bring beauty into my life. I don't feel lonely because I'm connected to the world around me.
He pointed to the trees and the sky.
I'm not just connected to these plants, Clara. I'm connected to the earth beneath my feet, to the wind in the trees, to the birds that sing their morning songs. This connection is what fills my life with meaning.
Clara thought for a moment, then asked,
"But don't you ever miss having people to talk to?"
Elias smiled again.
I do talk to people when they visit, just like I'm talking to you now. But being alone gives me the time and space to understand myself and the world better. It allows me to find peace in the quiet moments.
Clara began to understand what Elias meant. She looked around at the garden, noticing how alive and vibrant it was. She realized that Elias wasn't lonely because he had found a deep sense of contentment in his solitude.
Solitude is a gift, Clara. It's where I've found my true self, and that's a source of endless joy. Being alone doesn't mean being lonely, it means being at peace with yourself.
As Clara left Elias's cottage that day, she felt a new sense of calm. She had learned that being alone didn't have to be something to fear or avoid. Instead, it could be a time to connect with the world and find happiness within herself, just like Elias did. Let's learn some words from the story. Abundant. Meaning, present in large quantities, more than enough. Example, the garden had an abundant amount of flowers, more than we could count. Wondered. Meaning, thought about something with curiosity or uncertainty. Example, she wondered if it would rain today because the sky looked cloudy. Solitude. Meaning, the state of being alone, often used when enjoying peace and quiet. Example, after a busy day, he enjoyed some solitude in his room, reading a book. Beneath my feet. Meaning, directly under where someone is standing or walking. Example, I could feel the soft grass beneath my feet as I walked through the park. Contentment. Meaning, a feeling of being happy and satisfied with what you have. Example, she felt a sense of contentment as she watched the sunset, happy with her simple life. It was my first day at university, and like many other freshmen, I was both excited and nervous. As I entered the large lecture hall, I noticed groups of students chatting, most of them clearly trying to make friends. I quietly found a seat near the middle, observing the room while pretending to check my phone. A few minutes later, our professor, Dr. Ahmed, walked in. He greeted us with a warm smile and started the class by introducing himself. Then, he did something unexpected. "Let's go around the room and introduce ourselves," he said. "Tell us your name, where you're from, and one thing you're passionate about." I felt a knot in my stomach. Public speaking wasn't my strength, and I wasn't sure what to say to make a good impression. I listened as the introductions started. Some students were confident, speaking clearly about their hometowns and their interests. Others, like me, were a bit more nervous, stammering their way through a few sentences. As the turn came closer, I reminded myself of a tip I had read: be honest and be yourself. When it was finally my turn, I took a deep breath and stood up. "Hi, everyone. My name is Aisha," I began. "I'm from Lahore, and I'm here to study computer science." I paused for a moment, then continued, "One thing I'm passionate about is coding, but beyond that, I love photography. Capturing moments helps me see the world differently, and it gives me a creative break from all the technical stuff." There was a brief silence, and then I saw a few people nodding and smiling. It wasn't a groundbreaking introduction, but it felt real. I sat back down, relieved that I had survived. As the class continued, I noticed one of the girls who had introduced herself earlier glance in my direction. Later, during a break, she approached me. "Hey, I also love photography," she said with a smile. We ended up chatting about cameras and our favorite places to take pictures. It wasn't long before we exchanged numbers, and I felt the first wave of connection in this new chapter of my life. That day taught me an important lesson: introductions don't have to be perfect or flashy. Being genuine is enough to start building relationships. Let's learn some words and expressions from the story. Pretending, acting like something is true when it's not. Example: she was pretending to be happy, even though she felt sad inside. Passionate, having strong feelings or emotions about something. Example: he is passionate about painting and spends hours working on his art every day. Knot in stomach, a feeling of nervousness or anxiety, often experienced as a tight feeling in the stomach. Example: before giving her speech, she felt a knot in her stomach because she was so nervous. Groundbreaking, something very new or innovative, often making a significant change or impact. Example: the scientists' groundbreaking research changed the way we think about medicine. Flashy, something that is very noticeable because it's bright or attracts a lot of attention, often in an exaggerated way. Example: his flashy new car caught everyone's attention because of its bright color and fancy design. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Until then, keep shining bright with Storylight.